Last year when we had this annual interview, we were mostly talking about and speculating about the pandemic, how it would go, what kind of challenges it would mean for the whole world. And now it is absolutely obvious and unquestionable that the world has changed. Uncertainty is the new norm. And how do you personally consider what kind of challenges, difficulties and harms would be caused for the breeders, the breed clubs, the kennel clubs, and for the FCA itself?
That's a good question, because we met last May, and in those days we really hoped this pandemic will be over in a few weeks or a few months, which didn't happen, obviously. It really like a war situation in many ways of our everyday life, affected, of course, both in personal, private and professional level. Dog breeding and all the related activity is not an exception. So we are having serious difficulties, but the good news is, because at the end of the day, I want to be optimistic, like I'm most of the time optimistic, we're still alive. The activity, what we are doing, is existing. Actually, dog breeding even increasing by its number. We will see if the quality increases or not, because the situation is very difficult when you cannot travel, because your breeding program has to be changed, because you cannot expect to go far away for an outcrossing, let's say, in your bloodline. So in many different levels, it is much more difficult, but time shows that dedicated people always find a way how to survive and how to make their profession professional. But first of all, before we talk anything else, I have to mention we lost friends. Quite many friends we lost. And it's really a hard time, because that's the most horrible thing, and I would like to give a gratitude whatever they've done for this dogdom all over the world. I'm not going to mention names, because for sure I would skip one or two which I could not skip it. But as a first step, we have to remember for all those people, actually friends. It's even difficult because now faces and the names coming up to mind, and it's difficult to accept we won't meet anymore with them. But show must go on, life goes on, and talk about first the kennel clubs. Kennel clubs are having serious difficulties in many countries, because dog shows and different sport event competition cannot be held because of the pandemic. On the other hand, on the other side, dog breeding increased by its number. So the registration, which also helped to manage a business like a kennel club is a business. It has to be maintained as a business matter. It helps a little bit, because the number of the registration increased almost in each country. The difficult thing is for the breeders how to find the good new homes for the new puppies, because many people want to have a pet now because of the frustration, because of the isolation, and many other emotional things. As I told you already, this is a kind of war situation also mentally and psychically. This problem can be solved with a good pet if it's chosen well. This is a difficult subject, to decide if somebody wants to buy a dog from me when I'm having puppy, to give it to him or her, or better to say, no, this dog is not for you, this breed is not for you, or you don't need to have a dog anyway, because if this shock situation will be over, then your everyday general life doesn't allow you to really take care of a dog in a way as it should be. We try to avoid a situation to create stray dogs for the future, because now some enthusiastic people who doesn't really prepared to have a new dog, but they want to provide something to the kid who is at home, who didn't go to the school because of the situation, want to have a company, a pet. But we have to discuss with all the possible new owners what's their plan if they are getting back to the normal life. The whole situation is about planning. This is what we do in this very difficult situation. The private life is change for the breeders, for the judges, for the dog owners. We learned, some of us who've been traveling around the world, we learned how good to be at home. We maintain a lot of things which we had no time to maintain in the last many years. And now we find ourselves in a nice home. And we learned how to get friends, even outside of the dog dome. We want to be together with those. And now the new time frame allows us to do that. So I realize that organizing dog shows, it's more and more difficult to get the judges, because they are more easily say, okay, I don't want to go because I'm already having 2 appointments on that month and I'm not going to take a 3rd one. So this is a personal level. We have to face a lot of personal problems because of the economy. Let's face with that. In every, let's say, war situation ends up with an economic crisis. And it's coming. It's almost here, but in many countries it's worse than in some others. And the breeders, the private people, has to plan how to cope with it, how to maintain their situation with this. It's going to be difficult. Maybe they have to reduce the number of the dogs, what they are having, and many other criteria has to be taken into consideration. Going back to the kennel clubs, I already mentioned most of them being able to be kept alive and even inactive. Nowadays, even many dog shows start to be organized. In some part of the world, the situation is worse than in some other one. Of course, let's say in Asia, it's very difficult to organize anything now because they still have the lockdown. Also in the Caribbean and the South American countries, slowly dog show starts, but it's very difficult. In Europe, it's a mixed situation. It's depending of the region. And I'm not only talking about dog shows, but different events like sport activity, the IPG World Championship, the Mondioring World Championship, all has been cancelled or postponed because it was no way to prepare it and no way to get the participants to the place. But as you can see, like we are talking about the bushfires in Australia, let's say, when huge territories are completely burst out. But as you can see, and as they know, a few months after, the new life is coming, the new plants are growing. So that's what's happening now, because anytime we are able to organize a dog show in some countries, the people are entering, the people want to meet each other. This is a social event, not only a dog show. Of course, winning or losing, it's one of the main points, but meeting with those who are having the same profession is much more important. So these events became social events, and it's very important. About the FCI. When I was elected as an FCI president, or even before, I explained my opinion, which was maybe strange at the first listening. that getting the income of the FCI only from dog shows and kennel names, of course, also, it's not the best attitude, let's say attitude, because FCI is not a show organizing organization. This is an institute which creates regulation for every single dog activity. All the sports, flyball, dog dancing, IGP, hunting, racing with sighthounds. So every single existing dog activity is related to the FCI. But the income of the FCI itself only comes from the dog show. I'm not talking about the money now, but of course, in this pandemic situation, it was difficult because this money just didn't come, but the priority. So that system should be changed in the future, not right now, but we have to think about it jointly in our next General Assembly or after. It cannot be decided by one person or not even the General Committee, but the community we belong together to. How to send a better message to the society around us. I'm happy to announce the FCI kept alive in both ways, professionally and also economically. It was a huge work, a lot of planning, and as a development in the basement of the FCI building, we had tons of papers as a history of the dog breeding, and now almost all of these papers are in the computer, so it's digitalized. That was the job of our employees in those days when not many dog shows and not many other registration has been done. So we made them busy, and this huge job is done. And actually, I would like to thank everybody in the office, especially, of course, Yves de Clercq, who was a really good partner in this very difficult situation. So I can happily announce that in this way, everything is all right. The turnover is good, and the economic situation is stable with all these problems. And of course, we lost quite a lot of money, but we can maintain the problem because, as you know, as long as we are having an office somewhere called FCI, every single kennel club can survive and can work together. That's why we are working for that so hard.
We are talking about the big changes. I think for many breeders worldwide, cancelling or postponing the World Dog Shows was a big issue because many people, probably many people, are connected to these events. Could you give some insight about the preparations and the works related to postponing that? Because based on the reaction of people, sometimes I doubt that they would know or understand a bit the work behind announcing that this dog show will be postponed to next year or this dog show will be cancelled.
Yes, you are right. It caused a lot of problems. As we all know, the last World Show was in Shanghai in April 2 years ago, so almost 2.5 years ago. Also, the last European show was more than 2 years ago. We planned the shows, but at the end they had to be postponed, and then you cannot imagine the work behind a simple postponing, because we have to get the sponsors again, we have to have the showground, we have to agree with the judges again, the whole list of judges has to be modified or updated. And then, like it happened about the European Dog Show in Slovenia, at the end, this modified show had to be cancelled because the situation prolonged and they couldn't manage to have the show. The work behind these changes are enormous. So, but thankfully, the solidarity worked, like when we postponed the World Show of Madrid for next year, the solidarity of the other countries, or actually the country of the planned World Show in that year, Brazil, was really great. Also made my face in tears, because it really gave the feeling we really belong together, and when we are in a hard situation, we can even give our own interest up for a while to make the whole organization and activity of the breeders alive. As a breeder, I'm also a breeder, I had a few litters during this very hard time. And now these breeders are having dogs with 18 months old, 20 months old, they've never been shown. Of course, we don't breed dogs to be shown solely, because that's not the target of the breeding. But these shows and the possible success gave us motivation to go further, to go on, to continue the activity. Without the shows and without the possibility to show, not just to win, but to show your product for the other professional, keeps you waking up in the early morning, going to the kennel, clean the dogs, exercise them, groom them, and love them even more. Without this motivation, the activity is much more difficult to maintain. So that's why we are happy to learn we can organize the World Show now. It's soon, in the first weekend of October in Brno. Of course, as you said, the new normal is the uncertainty. There are some, but we are going ahead, and we are going for it. And more than 13,000 dogs entered in this very difficult situation. Of course, the list of judges had to be modified, because many judges are not able to travel. And that is the reason why, because many people ask why we postponed or delayed it or cancelled the FCI General Assembly. As you all know, it's always related to the World Show. The World Show was to be held, and it's being held at the first weekend of October. So the planned date, the scheduled date of the General Assembly was the end of September. And we got many news from, first of all, Asia, South America, and Caribbean. It's very obvious in that time of the year, because of the situation is still bad in the country, for sure they cannot travel. They are not able to come to Europe. We should react like keep the official order of the statutes, or, and that's what we did, keep the spirit together. Make all important decisions of the General Assembly together, not just a small part of the FCI. So we want everybody to be there. We want everybody to be involved in any decision being made. And then we decided to postpone the General Assembly for 8 months. And as it's already announced, it will be related to the Madrid World Show next June. So, and I really hope, and it seems like the situation with the vaccination and everything, the situation improving, even if more and more strange strains of the virus are appearing, but it seems the vaccination are effective against of those, and we can maintain the General Assembly to make all the big decisions. So basically, I was elected as an FCI president for 2 years, and in that time it will be over 3 years. And I cannot say this period was the one anybody wished for to be the president of the FCI. But if I look deep inside of my team, which is the FCI office and also the General Committee, and also the leaders of the different kennel clubs, I'm proud what they've done, what we've done. so far.
Just a little bit about the General Assembly a bit more. Isn't it possible to organize the General Assembly online? Because as far as I know, the FCI committee and board and the decision-making bodies are well experienced with Zoom at the moment.
Yeah, the General Committee didn't meet since a long time, but we are having much frequently the meetings online, which is a quite effective way. It's going to change the whole decision-making procedure within the FCI, because we learned we don't need to spend 4 days when we are meeting 2 days. We don't need to travel that much, and we can have meetings as frequently as it's needed. We don't need to wait half a year or 8 months for the next meeting, which is a positive thing. Of course, not to be able to meet each other, that's not a good thing, because as everybody say, the most important news and decision can be made during a good lunch, when it's a break. Of course, it's an exaggeration, but you know what I mean. It has its truth in a way. The online General Assembly, a fully online General Assembly, is not allowed according to the FCI statutes. It was a kind of possibility to have a central of the headquarter, let's say, of the General Assembly, like some of us going to the FCI office, physically present, and then the rest can be online. That was a slight option if you really analyze the statutes. But then how to maintain a long 2 days meeting in 99 countries where the time difference is more than 12 hours if you take a consideration of the different geographical regions. So it was not really effectively possible.
Okay, thank you. For the outsider, I guess it may seem that just because the whole world stopped during the last 1 year, and in some countries, many countries actually, there are still problems. So it would seem that actually, dog shows, some registrations, people can't travel, so it means that nothing really happened within the organization, I mean in the FCI now, but you mentioned that there were a lot of work done, and I know about some of them, but what are those achievements within the FCI during the last 1 year, under these conditions and circumstances?
It was 2 options. First option, collapsing. We didn't choose that one. Second option, to build the future and make plans. And that's what we've done. We've done a lot of commercial and PR activity in our different new tools, and it was very effective. So statistics shows the entry and the so-called click on our surfaces or our tools of the FCI more than doubled. So FCI now more known by societies, not just the breeders, but by the societies. And that was one of the targets, to show ourselves not as an elitist group of strange people doing something, but to show ourselves to the society and to get the value what we deserve from the society. It's an ongoing procedure. Also, we learned during this period the very strong anti-breeding propaganda all over the world, and stronger in some regions and not so strong in some other regions. And that's why we prepared a webinar for our members, the kennel clubs, how to deal with the anti-breeding propaganda. And that was actually, to this date, the most popular and the most effective activity of the FCI, because this webinar was already organized, and 60 countries participated. And I have to tell you, these participants been appointed by the kennel clubs. It was not free for everybody. So 60 countries appointed more than 200 spectators and audiences, where the tactic and the method of this subject was widely discussed and very actively, which made me very happy. Also, we often say that the education is the basic of the future. I'm happy to announce that, but everybody knows already. We made the joint mutual education program for the breeders, together with our sponsor, the Royal Canin, and it was launched a few months ago together the FCI and the Royal Canin, and it was also very, very popular. It was one presentation for the kennel clubs and another one for the breeders, and over 1,000 direct spectators was there. And it was recorded, so ever since many thousand others seen it, but we've been together 1,000 person first time in the history of the FCI. And we talked about the new education program, which is an online program already working. And also the new method, how to show ourselves more professional and how to be really more professional. And we discussed about the new project of the DNA testing and the DNA-related pedigree, which is now an offer of the FCI for every kennel club, and they can decide to use it or how to use it or not to use it. So this is an open door now. We talked about many times which is a must to do by the kennel clubs and what is optional. Everything is optional. The FCI creates the frame, the recommendation, find new ways to be more professional, but it's not a must, but the kennel clubs can decide, every and each of them individually, which one to use, which one not to use, which one could be included in the future registration system, and it can be changed every day based on the need of the breeders or the breed clubs they're working together with. During the last 2 years, the problem and the subject of the boas, which is a short-faced breeds problem, got stronger and became very popular and went to outside of the FCI to the society, which is understandable in a way. But then more people talked about it, less professionals talk about it. So the percent of the professionals got very small. We want to change it. And we had, as you know, we had a lot of discussion about it with the Kennel Club of the United Kingdom. And we made a contract with them where they use the Cambridge system to test this problem, which is a functional test, grading the dogs functionally, not using centimeters, but function. A healthy one with a good, easy, free breathing, or this is stage 0, or another dog having difficulties is a stage 3 or 4. The FCI offers the system to be used by the kennel club, different kennel clubs. We signed a contract with them, and based on this contract, any of the interested kennel club can join to the program, and also when the interest growing and the possibility of traveling will be more easy, then we still expect to have a study, a conference, where the leader of the team, health team, actually Dr. Jane Ladlow is the first person who is dealing with this, can make a presentation about the whole problem, the staging system, how to use it, how to make the graduation, and a practical examination should be performed on the very same day where we invited dogs. So even the place has been fixed and everything, but the pandemic crossed all the plans about it, but it's still an ongoing procedure, and I'm very happy to learn that many FCI-related kennel clubs joined to the program already and signed a contract also and participating, which also makes the whole study more rich and professional, because more dogs and more countries participating, the result is more valid for the future. Also, because of the many urban legends going around, we decided to have a podcast meeting, which will be recorded in this very month, with the professionals about BOAS. So it will be 3-4 persons talking about this project in a professional way, its possibility, how to maintain that, how to help the situation getting better. But of course, it's needless to say, it only belongs to those breeders belong to the FCI. And as we know, now, let's say the breeding of French Bulldog became very commercial. The blue one, the small one, the toy one with long hair, and all these dogs are produced outside of our scope. It's very difficult to find out how to influence them because they don't belong to us. But when problems occur, all these problems come back to the kennel clubs like the only visible authorities. This is a big challenge of the future, to make the society to understand they don't need to regulate the kennel clubs, because kennel clubs already doing, the breeders belonging to the kennel clubs already doing their job in many ways as professional as possible, but we cannot influence the other factors and the other people. I cannot even call them breeders. They don't even register the dogs. So this is an ongoing problem, and it will be an ongoing problem for many years. But the main topic is to make the FCI-related breeders as professional as possible and to help them to offer them as many different tools of testing as possible. And we are on a good way in this subject. Also, because of the health-related issues and the relationship with the society, we created a new committee called the Dog Health and Welfare Committee. This is a brand new thing, was established this year. I wanted this committee to be a window to the society. Why I'm saying that? Because even so, if the leader of this committee is Dr. Peiro from Mexico, who is a board member of the FCI, but we selected the members also from outside of the FCI, inside and outside, talking about dog welfare organization with a very good connection with politicians, decision makers, politicians, to get the news before decision can be made, to change ideas and to make them understand what we are doing has the same target what they are doing. We are not enemies, we are partners in many subjects. We have to find them and work on that together, because that makes both sides more effective. Also, we are having PR professionals in that committee, and they are working many different subjects. It's a brand new committee, but we expect a lot of material coming up, and I learned they are soon will come up. So I'm very happy with the very colorful activity, which comes from very different, even geographically, very different places, and people with a profession providing very different point of view. And all these things and facts can be made as a united document related to the FCI. So I have high hopes. I also having high hopes about the FCI Youth, which was re-established as it was decided by the last General Assembly of the FCI. We have to renew it in a different format. And of course, it was expected last March, and it was finally created and established this year, still online because these young people was not able to travel. I participated on the first meeting, and I have to tell you, we are having quite a lot very talented young people hidden. We haven't seen them before in their own country. They've seen them, but they never became a member of the FCI activity. And now all these young people are related us, connected to us, and they are working very interesting subjects. You will see them soon because I asked them to organize a webinar similar to what we had by the FCI, and the materials are ready. And I'm sure you will enjoy that because this is a new, fresh breeze from young people who are deeply interested because of their family before or their personal interest. It's not about junior handling because FCI Youth is not just about junior handling. It's okay, it's a part of it, but how to provide a professional career for a young people related to the dogs and many other subjects will be included. And when it's all ready, we will organize a webinar, and we again will invite all of you, I mean the kennel clubs and the representative, to listen and to adopt the good idea and to use them. It will be great. So I'm very pleasantly surprised with those young people. It's a good news.
Just a provocative question.
Okay.
Why only for the kennel clubs and the representatives of the kennel clubs? Because the FCI had the already mentioned seminar on anti-breeding propaganda,
yeah.
And this is also a very important topic.
I think we can do the same or similar webinars for the representative of the kennel clubs and for anybody else interested in it. But first, I would like to invite the kennel clubs to be involved in this in a professional level. And when they understand its importance, maybe the webinar with the same or very similar content can be maintained by these young people to anybody interested in it. But I would like to divide it because, why? Because I want the kennel clubs to take it seriously and to come and to be counted and to be interested and to send somebody. We don't need to have the presidents because it's not necessarily the main interest of the president of the kennel club. They have many other things to manage. But in most of the kennel clubs nowadays are having some young people, or they're having young kennel clubs, or a leader of the junior handlers, so something related to the young ones, and they can send this person there to listen and to make a report what's going on there. And as a second etap, it can be within a week. Anybody can be able to come and listen and getting the new ideas. My priority as an FCI president, first I want to let the kennel clubs to know what's going on. And then the news should be spread by the kennel clubs. But of course, we can contact with average people or anybody who's interested in this activity.
Yeah, just a short professional comment on this. And people forget about that in many cases, that the FCI is present in 99 countries. And there are language differences, huge language differences. And it is, I think from my personal point of view, I think it is very important to engage and involve the kennel clubs to spread the news, spread the knowledge and all the information in their own country, on their own language. Otherwise, it will not be that effective.
Everything can basically maintained locally, based on the recommendation or offer or guideline of the FCI. But FCI cannot manage anything in a certain country. We can help if we've been asked to give help, but that's the duty of the kennel clubs. And on the other hand, another thing I want to tell you, we are not the one to show ourselves clever, I mean the FCI. We want to help the representatives of the kennel clubs to look clever, well informed and active. So it's a kind of teach the teacher system. That's how we try to pass information and recommendation.
So besides the current situation, and I mean the pandemic, and I don't want to talk about that more, you sound to be really enthusiastic, full of drive. What are your plans for the following year? Because you mentioned that the General Assembly will be next year, with the election and everything. What are your plans? What are on your agenda, and what you consider to be the biggest challenges currently?
The biggest challenges are already mentioned. They are here, and it will be here in the next 8 months till the next General Assembly. We try to show ourselves even more for the society, and that's why we started to make podcasts about the FCI. We have a long plan, about 24 different podcasts. Podcast is the one like this one. Somebody professional chatting or talking or giving a report for somebody who is interested about the same subject. Now, as I mentioned, in this month we will record a podcast about the boas, and also some of the project and the subject being recorded, like how to maintain the dog population, especially about stray dogs, even if stray dogs are not directly the problems of the kennel club, but it always goes back to the kennel club somehow, even if they have nothing to do with those dogs. But of course, the name dog is there, and actually it could be taken like a good sign, because it means the society knows about us.
But only in case of problems.
But only in case of problems. They never mention us when it's something going well and something positive. But to be a partner in trouble makes people be friendly out of the trouble as well. So many different projects, like we will introduce the different sections of the FCI in this podcast, and many other activity. It will be about even genetics and some other projects. So you will see, keep alert, because it's going on. Some of these podcasts already recorded, and some others are coming soon.
And further plans for the following next year? Okay, survival, I think, is still an issue, and uncertainty is still an issue.
We are giving support when it's needed, like it happened in some countries already, because of the, difficult regulations planned related to the dog breeding or dog keeping, not just breeding them, like it happened like in Greece, where we had to make a report and a professional letter to the different ministers to be used to change the plan, and it's an ongoing procedure. We are ready to help here, and we are going on further with the PR programs to make us more well known, not just showing a picture of a cup and a dog, because that's not what FCI means. Of course, this is an important part of it, but emotions created by the dogs. We are breeding dogs, maybe 5% of them will ever win a cup or a pokal or a trophy, and the other 95% is a family member and a good partner of the lonely people, saving frustration and many other things maintained. Also, some dogs are still used in a professional way for the police, hunters, and so on. So we want to show to the society what we are doing, because we are doing many of the things. I have to tell you, the remaining 8 months will not be filled with hunting for votes, because it's not my attitude, and it's not only myself but my team, the General Committee attitude. So now we really established a good working relationship. We can trust each other, and what was my target, to let good common sense to win in most of the subjects, and it happened. And it's one of the main success in my mind, because it was not always the thing before.
I think it's a perfect closing thought, and I wish to have such an interview a year later with fewer problems, but with the same enthusiasm you have, and plans and ideas.
If God help you,
help me. Okay,
help us. Okay.
I do hope so.
Yeah.
I do hope so.
Okay.
Thank you so much for.
Thank you very much. Thank you.